Philip Roth, the celebrated and controversial American novelist, is dead. Roth was the prolific, prize-winning author of more than 25 books, including Portnoy's Complaint and American Pastoral. His work won the Pulitzer, the Booker, and most other major awards. This is a 2011 scene when he was honored with the U.S. National Humanities Medal by former President Barack Obama. Only the Nobel Prize for Literature eluded Roth. The Jewish experience in America in the 20th century is a major theme in his novels. So is male sexuality. His satirical and confrontational writing style saw him come under attack at times during his long career for his portrayal of Jews and women. His literary agent says Roth died of congestive heart failure in a New York City hospital last night. Philip Roth was 85 years old. Blake Bailey is Philip Roth's biographer and his friend, and there he is in New York City with us this morning. Mr. Bailey, a pleasure to have you on our program. Thank you.
Good morning, Heather. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, and condolences, because you've lost your friend as well, and we saw that. We saw the affection in your tweet last night, which I'll just bring up on the screen. Philip Roth died tonight, surrounded by lifelong friends who loved him dearly, a darling man and our greatest living writer. I'm going to come back to that last point in a second, but I understand you saw Philip Roth just yesterday, Mr. Bailey?
Yeah, Philip has been in the hospital for the last 3 weeks. He suffered from congestive heart failure for many years. We were hoping that he would pull through, but a couple of days ago he took a turn for the worse, and he decided not to fight it anymore. And so he was, heavily sedated in palliative care and surrounded by people who loved him. So that's not a bad way to go.
Your friend. Can I ask, if it's not too personal, I mean, he certainly wrote and explored the issue of mortality as he faced his own at the end. How was he?
He was fine. Philip's, when I first came to this job in the summer of 2012, and I apologize for the jackhammer outside my window, Philip said, I've got congestive heart failure. I'll be out of your way in a year, i.e. dead, and you can just get on with it, but I'll give you a good start now. And he stuck around for 6 years, and they were 6 great years. He didn't have to write anymore. He could do whatever he wanted, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. And the reason he lasted so long is because of Philip's iron will and discipline. Every morning he did his stretches and his exercises, and he went to the pool and did his aqua aerobics. And so let that be a lesson to us all.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I'm glad to see you smiling and remembering some of the good memories, because I'm thinking of Philip Roth fans who are going to be devastated by his passing, of course, even at the age of 85. When you talk about how you took on this work, it's just so extraordinary. He wanted you, he wants you, well, wanted you, and you are his official biographer to the extent that he wants all other papers destroyed so that yours is the only account on record. Now, tell me what story he is hoping that you capture.
Well, I don't know that Philip was imposing a particular story on me one way or the other. He was friends with a previous biographical subject of mine, John Cheever, and he read my biography of Cheever, and he liked it a lot. And that's what he was looking for. He was looking for something that was nuanced, thorough, and accurate. The key word here is accurate. Philip wanted to be understood as he was. He wanted someone who was going to get the facts right. And he was willing to provide, access to all his friends and family and documentation so that one person who he trusted would get things right. But we had a written agreement which allowed me complete freedom. So that was the deal.
But what a responsibility to convey this man's story.
It's an enormous responsibility, and it's one that we face together. He gave me all his papers, books, boxes and boxes that practically reached to the ceiling in my office, and never mind the warehouse of stuff at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and never mind the hundreds of interviews that I did and so on and so forth. So it's an enormous undertaking, far more than my previous subjects. It's really been something.
When you say he wanted to be understood by someone who would be accurate, so much in how he was making himself understood was through avatars, through alter egos, Nathan Zuckerman and David Kepesh. I mean, how did he want to be seen through those characters?
Well, look, I mean, if there has ever been a more maligned in his time and misunderstood writer, it's Philip Roth. You know, because he wrote a satirical book, his first book, Goodbye Columbus, about nouveau riche, rather crass but lovable Jewish people in the suburbs. People said he was a self-hating Jew, okay, and that dogged him for most of his career. Because he wrote Portnoy's Complaint, ditto. Plus, they thought he was this antic sex fiend, right? Because he wrote about women characters that weren't entirely sympathetic, and never mind all the unsympathetic men he wrote about, he was often tagged as a misogynist. So Philip was kind of, he was being the provocateur. He was creating fictional surrogates like Nathan Zuckerman, or like a character named Philip Roth, and saying, okay, here is how you perceive me. For example, Nathan Zuckerman is reviled by his family for his allegedly anti-Semitic writings, and his father curses him on his deathbed, okay? Well, in real life, Philip's father, Herman, used to hand out copies of Portnoy's Complaint to strangers signed from Philip Roth's father, Herman. So obviously, that was one parallel between Roth and a fictional surrogate that was inaccurate. Yes. And that's what Roth was sort of playing with. He was saying, okay, you want to pigeonhole me, you want to stereotype me, let's kind of toy with this.
And you have described him, as I mentioned, as our greatest living writer. What made him so,
the living
to your
part
eyes?
No longer applies, obviously.
Exactly. But what made him
well,
greatest?
Look, back in 2006, the New York Times canvassed, I think, 200 book critics and professors and so on, bookish people, to name the best American novel of the past 25 years, right? So from 1981 to 2006. Of the 22 novels named, 6 were by Philip Roth. Okay, and that doesn't even include the part of Roth's career that precedes 1981. The National Book Award, the youngest ever recipient of the National Book Award for Goodbye Columbus, Portnoy's Complaint, etc. He has 10 volumes in his Library of America edition. The only writer who has more is Henry James. Okay, so I think those sort of things speak for themselves.
And yet, I'm so over my time, but I want more questions with you. But for all of that, no Nobel. Bob Dylan won.
You know,
Roth's fans were so upset. Did that bother him?
Other people a lot more than it bothered Roth. And when the Swedes tried to troll him by giving it to Bob Dylan, no one was more amused than Philip.
Okay, that's good to know, to clarify that. I can't wait till your biography comes out. 2021, I understand. Is that right?
It's looking good for that.
Okay. Well, you have all that material to work with, so we'll check back. Thank you very much for the time and the insight this morning. Really appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Heather. It was fun.
A pleasure.